April 1st, 2014. The dense jungles of Panama stood silent, their towering trees and winding trails concealing secrets that no one could have imagined. Two young women, full of life and ambition, set out on what should have been a simple hike, a day of exploration and adventure. But as the hours passed, something went wrong. A series of strange events would follow, leaving behind a trail of cryptic clues and unanswered questions. What began as a dream trip to explore the world would soon become one of the most chilling mysteries of our time. What really happened deep in the Panamanian jungle that day? Join us as we uncover the story of Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon, a tale of adventure, mystery, and a search for the truth. Kris Kremers, 21, and Lisanne Froon, 22, were two best friends from Amersfoort, Netherlands. Both were bright, ambitious, and full of curiosity about the world. Kris was known for her outgoing personality and creative spirit, with a passion for art and photography. Lisanne, on the other hand, was more reserved, but equally driven with a love for sports and a degree in psychology. The two had recently graduated from university and spent months planning their dream trip to Central America. They worked hard to save money, carefully mapped out their itinerary, and even arranged to volunteer at a local daycare in the small town of Boquete, Panama. Their goal was to immerse themselves in the culture, help the local community, and create memories that would last a lifetime. By late March 2014, Kris and Lisanne had arrived in Panama, eager to begin their adventure. They explored the vibrant streets, enjoyed the local cuisine, and marveled at the natural beauty around them. Everything seemed to be going perfectly as they settled into their new surroundings. But just days into their stay in Boquete, the two friends decided to embark on a hike that would change everything. On the morning of April 1st, 2014, Kris and Lisanne set out to hike the El Pianista Trail, a popular route just outside the town of Boquete. Known for its breathtaking views and relatively easy terrain, the trail was a favorite among tourists and locals alike. The two friends were well prepared for a casual day hike. They carried light backpacks, a camera, and their phones, ready to capture the beauty of the Panamanian wilderness. The trail began in open fields, gradually winding its way into the lush cloud forest. But as the sun began to dip below the horizon, Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon were no longer on the well-trodden El Pianista Trail. Instead, they adventured beyond the safety of the summit, crossing the continental divide into the dense, unmarked wilderness of the Panamanian jungle. What led them to take this path remains one of the many unanswered questions in their story. Perhaps they were drawn by the sound of a distant waterfall, or maybe they simply wanted to explore further, unaware of the dangers that lay ahead. The terrain beyond the summit was far more treacherous. Steep ravines, slippery rocks, and thick vegetation that could easily disorient even the most experienced hikers. The first sign of trouble came later that afternoon. At 4:39 p.m., Kris's iPhone made its first attempt to call 112, the international emergency number. The call didn't go through. A poor reception in the remote jungle made it impossible to connect. Over the next few hours, more emergency calls were made from both Kris's iPhone and Lisanne's Samsung phone, but none were successful. As night fell, the jungle would have transformed into an entirely different world. The once beautiful landscape became a maze of shadows and sounds, with the cries of nocturnal animals echoing through the darkness. The temperature dropped, and the dense canopy above blocked out any light from the moon or stars. For two young women, lost, alone, and unprepared for an overnight stay, the night would have been terrifying. What happened next is a matter of speculation, but one theory stands out: a deadly fall. The area beyond El Pianista is known for its steep and unstable terrain, with narrow paths that hug the edges of cliffs and ravines. It's possible that one of them, likely Kris, lost her footing while navigating the rough ground. A single misstep could have sent her tumbling down a steep slope, leaving her severely injured or worse. If Kris had fallen, Lisanne would have been left to make an impossible choice: stay with her injured friend or venture deeper into the jungle in search of help. The failed emergency calls suggest she chose the former, desperately trying to summon aid with no success. Then, a chilling discovery. Days later, Lisanne's camera was found, containing over 90 images taken in the dead of night, starting on April 8th, a full week after their disappearance. The photos are haunting. Dark, blurry shots of the jungle, close-ups of rocks, and what appears to be a makeshift marker made of sticks and plastic bags. Some believe these photos were attempts to signal rescuers, using the camera flash as a beacon in the pitch-black night. Others suggest they were documenting their surroundings, perhaps to leave clues in case they didn't survive. But the most unsettling detail is the timeline. The emergency calls stopped after April 5th, and Lisanne's phone battery was completely drained by then. Chris's iPhone, however, was powered on multiple times in the days that followed. Yet, the wrong passcode was entered 77 times. Was it Lisanne, now alone, trying to access her friend's phone? Or was someone else with them in those final days? The jungle is an unforgiving place. With no food, no clean water, and no way to call for help, survival would have been a desperate struggle. The rushing rivers, steep cliffs, and relentless heat would have made every single step a challenge. And as the days turned into weeks, the odds of survival grew slimmer. It wasn't until June 2014, more than 2 months after Kris and Lisanne disappeared, that the first physical evidence of their fate was discovered. A local woman found Lisanne's backpack near a riverbank, miles away from the main trail. Inside were both women's phones, the camera, and other personal belongings, all dry and intact, as if they'd been carefully placed there. Shortly after, human remains were found scattered near the same river. A boot containing a foot, later identified as Lisanne's, and a fragment of Kris's pelvic bone were among the discoveries. Forensic analysis revealed no clear signs of foul play, but the condition of the remains raised more questions than answers. How had they ended up so far from the trail? Why were the remains so scattered? And what truly happened in those final, harrowing days? The full theory remains the most plausible explanation. The terrain beyond El Pianista is notoriously dangerous, and a single misstep could have set off a chain of events that led to their tragic end. But the lack of definitive evidence leaves room for doubt. And the eerie details, the nighttime photos, the scattered remains, the failed emergency calls, continue to fuel speculation. Was it a tragic accident, or is there more to the story? The jungle holds its secrets tightly, and the true fate of Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon may never be fully known. The disappearance and tragic deaths of Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon left an indelible mark on their families, the community, and the world. What began as a dream trip to explore the beauty of Panama turned into a haunting mystery that captivated global attention. In the Netherlands, Kris and Lisanne were remembered as vibrant, adventurous young women with bright futures ahead of them. Kris, with her creative spirit and love for photography, and Lisanne, with her quiet determination and passion for helping others, were celebrated for their kindness, curiosity, and zest for life. Their families, devastated by the loss, worked tirelessly to honor their daughters' memories while seeking answers to the many questions surrounding their fate. Memorials were held in their hometown of Amersfoort, where friends and family gathered to share stories and celebrate the lives of two women who had touched so many. Kris and Lisanne's adventurous spirits inspired others to embrace life fully, even in the face of uncertainty. Their story also sparked important conversations about travel safety, particularly for those venturing into remote or unfamiliar areas. The tragedy highlighted the need for better infrastructure, such as improved trail markings, emergency communication systems, and access to local guides in regions like Boquete. In Panama, the case led to increased awareness of the risks associated with hiking in the country's rugged terrain. Efforts were made to improve safety measures for tourists, including better signage and trails, and more resources for search and rescue operations. Despite these efforts, the mystery surrounding Kris and Lisanne's deaths continues to haunt those who have followed their story. The eerie details, the failed emergency calls, the nighttime photos, the scattered remains have fueled countless theories, from tragic accidents to more sinister possibilities. Yet, through the uncertainty, one thing remains clear. Their story is a powerful reminder of the fragility of life and the unpredictable forces of nature. The jungle may never give up its secrets, but one thing is certain. Their story is a chilling reminder of how quickly adventure can turn into tragedy. Though their lives were tragically cut short, Kris and Lisanne's adventurous spirits and love for exploration continue to inspire, urging us to explore the world, but never forget the dangers that may lie ahead.